want to give a trigger warning before I share this story. So very early into the piece of me arriving in King's Cross, myself and a sack of other street kids move into a refuge called the Homeless Children's Association in King's Cross. It's founded by a children's magistrate, Rob Blackmore, and the CEO is Simon Davies. What happens is one night, very early in the piece, I go to the office and Simon's sitting there playing the guitar, drinking a bottle of scotch. I walk in and he goes, "You want a glass of scotch?" I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah." You know, what child doesn't want to sit in the office with the adults and drink alcohol, like making you feel like you're a grown-up? So I have some alcohol, and then another guy comes in, Paul Chetwynd Jones, who's also been convicted, as well as Simon. And he says, "I've got these Jack and Jills called Reds, if you want one." "Oh yeah, I'll have one of them too, yeah, why not?" So I'm now drinking scotch and taking these Reds. And the next thing I remember is waking up in the morning, half clothed, in the bed next to Simon. And as I sat up in the bed and sort of got out of the bed, I start getting snippets and flashbacks of the night before. I'm fucking angry, man. Every time I go to fucking sleep, someone's fucking trying to hurt me, you know. And this person I look up to only days before says to me, "It's refuge designed for kids like you, kids who have been through abuse, who have got parents who are alcoholics or violence," and, you know, GROOMEDs me, you know. I actually get up out of the room, get dressed, and I walk out of the refuge. The other kids are sleeping up the back in the main section. I walk out the front door and I see Grant Morris, who's also been convicted. And I say to him, "I've been scotch taped." He said, "Oh, by who, Glenn, by who?" You know. Anyway, I tell him, I also tell the woman, Annie Crow, who arranged to meet me that night at the Colonial coffee shop up near the park in King's Cross. I end up walking up to the park and sitting down, and later on my girlfriend sitting on my knee, and she says, "What's wrong?" She keeps putting her nose in my face and saying, "Tell me what's wrong, I can see something's wrong." But I'm embarrassed, right? I'm a male who doesn't want to admit what's just happened to me. I feel such fucking anger around these fucking grubs and how they get away with doing this. You know, the woman, Annie Crow, she ran another separate thing from the refuge, as well as working at the refuge, called King's Cross Resource Centre, where her objective was to find children so they didn't get early access to King's Cross. But what she was actually doing was getting the money and taking these kids to the refuge, knowing that all 4 men, or 5 actually, that were working there were fucking predators. Try and make it make sense. The judge founded this. It had Bob Hawke on the board. It had 7 judges on that board. 4 men I've had convicted now. Grant Morris, 2 years, 8 months. Paul Jones, Ken Fogarty, and Simon Davies. Simon Davies got 10 years. 1 year after the refuge, 1 year after that abuse. The refuge closed in August, by the way, of '83, but 1 year after that actual initial abuse, Linda ends up losing her life. You know, 2 men took her life. And the saddest part to that story is that that's when I started putting the bracing bit in my arm. I started using the gas first, and then I ended up becoming a heroin addict. I ended up adding Jack and Jills to the equation when the heroin stopped working. And over the next 7 years, I kept dropping all the time. How I did not fucking die is fucking a miracle. And because I mean, you read my book, you'll see some of the stories of where I drop. One time at 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning in the back streets of Woolloomooloo, and just happens to have a friend walking past, flicks a cigarette, lands right next to me, Melon, and he ends up getting me saved. I was so reckless in my addiction, I just didn't fucking care. So why do I share these stories with you? I am a firm believer that when we share our stories, they lose their power. My fucking story had such a fucking vice grip over me for so fucking long that I lived in victim mode. I was angry, I was always getting in fights, I was getting arrested, I was just fucking pissed at the world. But once I started to realise the only person in my life that can change my life was me, it was the catalyst for change. I found purpose, I found gratitude, I found myself, I found my voice. It sounds funny to say I found my voice for a guy that's a chatterbox, but there's a difference between speaking and articulating what's going on in your fucking head. I have serious PTSD and sometimes I really struggle with it. but for the most of it, I live a fucking good life now. I mean, it's not anything flash. I have a housing commission house. I have a, you know, I don't have much in the way of material things, but I have my life. I have my sobriety. I have my family. I have my job now, working on the streets, helping others, and I'm fucking grateful. I am so grateful to all the love that I've got of people offline. People reach out to me every day, and I just want to caution people on doing it, in that I know people want to share their stories with me, but sometimes it can trigger me. Like, sometimes I open up a message and it's a fucking book, and you have to understand I've got 50 other messages that I'm trying to answer as well. So if I don't always put a long-winded reply, please don't take offense to that. Some stories do still trigger me, you know. Bless you guys.